A very good morning, students. Today, in this class, we are going to learn the chapter Hereditary and Evolution. The word hereditary is nothing but the characteristics which are moving from one generation to the other generation through genes or through the DNA. Evolution is nothing but special characteristics which are emerging from one organism, which is very important for the organism to sustain in an environment. They are going to call it as evolution, a new kind of a special characters which are arising. So in this chapter we are going to learn the further about evolution and even hereditary, which plays an important role in a survival of an organism. We have seen that reproductive process give rise to new individuals that are similar but subtly different, isn't it? Whatever may be the organisms, what happens, we have seen that reproduction plays an important role, but in the similar way, many of them are in similarly they will be having the same structures, whereas some of those organisms are going to vary a little. We all know that what happens in asexual reproduction, we may not be able to find a more number of variations. For example, if you take a budding or regeneration or even any other process which we have seen in asexual reproduction, from a mother cell a number of daughter cells which are produced as a fragment or as a part, thereby what happen, you can see that is no changes have been observed in their daughter cells, because the part which has been arised or the nucleus which has been split, thereby it carries a similar number of exact copies for the next generation. So in a sexual reproduction, we can directly say that no kind of a variation or minimum variation can be observed, whereas in a sexual reproduction, thereby what happen, we can see maximum number of variation, because in sexual reproduction we can see that is in humans, if you take an example, that is a mother and a father will be having different types of genes which are carrying different types of characters, hence a maximum number of variations can be observed. If we just observe the field of a sugar cane, if you just not only the sugar cane, any kind of a plants, if you just observe, you find only a little variation, that is just to compare a rose with another rose of a same field. Thereby what happen, you cannot able to find a maximum number of variation. The color, the structures will be of a same way, but when you compare animals of a higher version, what happen, you can find variations. For example, if you take a human being which reproduce sexually, they show quite distinct variation which are visible among different individuals. You can see, for example, the eyes, the shape of those eyes it may be, or even the nose shape it may be, or even the color variation of a skin it may be, or a structure of a hair it may be. So thereby what happen, in a sexual reproduction you can find a number of variations. Accumulation of variation during reproduction, we know that during reproduction what happen, we can find number of variations. Inheritance from the previous generation provides both a common basic body design and subtle changes in it for the next generation. Now think about what would happen when this new generation in turn reproduce. For example, if you just take here, this is the first generation. Whenever it undergoes reproduction, thereby you can see slight changes in their generation which has been produced. In the first one, you can see a slight color changes, and even in the second one, you can see a slight color generation. When these first generation, when they undergo for the reproduction, thereby what happen, you can find that is a more number of variations can be observed in which one, that is F2 generation. So thus what happen, these kind of variation which are produced by the younger ones, what happen, will be probably able to see that is a number of variations among the organisms, whether it can be any kind of characteristics. The second generation will have differences that they inherit from the first generation, as well as newly created differences. So you can see the color variations, all these three will be having bluish in color, but you can see that is sky blue. So thereby what happened, the three kind of an organism in the next generation will have slight variation, but in this organism what happened, you can see a new species kind of an organism or new variety of an organism have been observed. This we can observe in number of organisms in a further inherited traits. Then, what do you mean by exactly similarities and differences? We know that child base all basic features of a human being. However, it does not look exactly like parents, and human population show a great deal of variations. As I told, what happens? The structure of ear it may be, or nose structure it may be, and even the color of eyes you can see. Some of them will be having brown eyes, or cat eyes, or even bluish in color. It all going to vary from one species, that is one human being to the other one. So that's why what happen, you can see a great variations can be observed. So if we just observe these earlobes are nothing but the lowest part of the ear. They are going to call it as earlobe. So you can see in this one, that is the first one, thereby what happened, attached to the head part. Here you can see the earlobe which has been attached to the head part, whereas in the second one you can see that is which is free. So the free and attached earlobes are two variants found in a human population. So this is one example in a ear. And if you just take other examples also, what happen, you can find number of variations. So, the most obvious outcome of a reproductive process still remains generation of individuals of similar design. The rules of hereditary determine the process by which traits and characteristics are reliably inherited. So, hereby what happened? Hereditary is nothing but we during the reproduction, whatever may be the outcomes which comes in an individual, which we see, whether it may be in a body shape or any other structures, what happen, we are going to call it as the hereditary. So these rules are explained by the number of scientists. So in the next classes we shall learn about those. Thank you.